that a breakup?
I think we have a situation right here.
On the filling station.
Hello?
Hello, good day, Tendo. How are you?
Not too bad, brother Carlos. And you?
I am good. I'm well.
We meet once again.
Yes, once again.
So, with this one, because we've built up so much momentum, I'm going to go straight for the kill with this episode. So, in the one that we did previously, you mentioned that you had made your way over to the US, and now you're in the US. And what had happened, which I found very interesting, was that Zvemoyo had to get permission from a married man to be with you, right? She got that permission. You're now in America, but I want to go straight for the red flags. I want to know what went wrong with you and Zvemoyo.
Okay. All right. So the lessons will still remain the same pretty much. If there are any more that I feel I was dropping, I'll just drop along the way.
Cool.
So fast forward now, I'm in the US. Just arrived. This is a whole new world for me. I have no clue how to maneuver my way around things.
Mm-hmm.
But she had hinted along the way as we were making our plans that chances are we were not going to end in the US. We were actually going to proceed to Canada.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm thinking, okay, so when she arrives, I'm at an Airbnb. When she arrives, she's going to spend 2 nights here with me before we proceed. And then we'll see how best we can move from there.
Mm-hmm.
So also remember, she had paid for the flight, but had not communicated it with me.
Yeah.
But instead, she told my mother.
Yeah.
And my mother had secretly lied to me as well, that she's the one that paid for the flight. So in my head, I'm thinking my mother is the one that's paid for the flight. And the amount that I had saved up for my flight was I had given to my mom.
Okay.
Then at the airport is when she handed me back the envelope with the money.
Yeah.
And she said, no, you're going to start a whole new life. You don't know what awaits you there. So you're going to need this to get by.
Mm-hmm.
You can send me back the money when you're back on your feet, because we're also developing a property back home.
Yeah.
So it was meant to be for the development of the property. So he says, oh. So I took the offer. I went. The first initial fight we had, remember friend, Mofu's girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
She's somebody from high school.
Yeah.
We had both agreed that I would not communicate with her in any way unless she was first to communicate with me, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm trying to build something serious here.
Yeah.
And this friend has bad blood with her from before.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not looking into being suspected of
the
same.
Of course, yeah.
So this girl maintained communication with Zvemoyo. They talk from time to time. So we got to a point where we used to post about each other a lot on all social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram. We were all over the place, and we were a couple of goals for almost all our friends. So I posted a picture of me and her on my WhatsApp status. Then the friend comments, he says, "Oh, you guys look so good together. Are you guys together now?" And I'm like, "No, I'm back home. I'm in Zim. She's in the US." And says, "Oh, okay, cool. Anyway, how are you guys doing?" And I said, "I'm fine."
I got a question about that just quickly. Why did you lie that you were in Zim when you were actually in the US?
We had both agreed we are not. She used to say I overshare information a bit too much when it comes to friends. So the whole move was a secret to everybody because we're doing something that was a bit risky, and she just believed bad aura comes from oversharing.
Okay.
Especially from friends and all of that. So you don't know who's for you and who's against you.
Okay.
And you don't know the kind of prayers they make against you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's the reason why, even with my family, it was a secret. I just left. The only person that knew was my mother.
Yeah.
And even at the airport, only her mother knew from their side. She actually escorted to the airport too. So yeah, that situation happens. We are now in transit. We're going to Canada now. So along the way, she then says, "Oh yeah, by the way, I just thought you need to know this. We are not going through the actual border. It's a whole little border jumping kind of situation. So we need to structure up an alibi."
Okay.
As to why we're crossing over. So this is the thing about me. She knew I had a whole lot of connections within politics. So she's like, okay, fine. Try and figure out what you can use along the lines of politics as your alibi. So yeah, I am now trying to figure out, and I only have about 6 hours to figure a story out that makes sense because you're going to seek asylum now. I'm like, oh wow. So this means chances are I'm not going to be seeing my family for at least 5 years.
Whoa.
And I'm only getting to hear this now. I managed to think of a story along the way. So I get to the border. I give my alibi. Everything's fine. We cross over. We're now on the other side. I now completely don't have social media on my phone. So WhatsApp, Instagram, everything. I deleted everything. So when you got to the other side, I'm holding we went through to the refugee camp where you stay. So it's like an actual hostel. We're at that hostel. We're now staying there. Everything is fine. Then following morning, we had to go to a particular office. We went to that office. And in that moment, I don't know whether it was a stroke of impatience that hit her or what. But she just changed. She just became this whole different, I don't even know what to call it. But she just got so tense.
Yeah.
So we get into that office. They're asking us questions. I'm responding. I'm telling them how we got there, etc. And now my story has to also include her or involve her in some way. So I then said, no, my political activities got her entangled into that mess.
Yeah.
So because I'm affiliated to a couple of politicians, etc., she was also on the chopping board for that because she then becomes dead weight for me. If they find her, they find me.
Yeah.
So from there, we then proceeded to do the whole formal structures that you go through in that process. And then from there, went back to the hostel. Whilst we're at that office again, just about to leave, friend then sends a message and she says, oh, hi, long time. So this is now over a week since I've left and since my conversation with friend on the comment on my status. And then she says, so how's Carlos? I haven't spoken to him in 2 days. And now bear in mind, me and Zvemoyo have been together at least a week now.
Yeah.
Physically. And I don't have social media for almost 5 days. And she says I haven't spoken to him in 2 days. Zvemoyo just looked at me and she says, oh, so you've been talking to her? And I'm like, hold on, what are you on about? Then she tilts the phone towards me. And then she got up and she started crying. Then she went to the washroom. She locked herself in. She came back 10 minutes later, bloodshot red eyes, and she was crying. That's when I looked at her and I said, look, I haven't spoken to this girl in this number of days.
Yeah.
How long have you not had social media? And she kept quiet.
Exactly.
She ignored that. We got to the hostel. Now she's getting intel again from her friend on which transportation to take to go to the next city. Yeah. Because we're done with that process there. We now need to proceed to the city that we said we're going to base in, which is Toronto. So upon going to Toronto, from that whole time that we left that office going to the hostel to start packing etc., there was a whole lot of silence. She ignored me the whole time. Anything that I tried to say to her would just trigger anger. Yeah. So I got there, me being me, I chose, okay, fine, I don't want trouble. Let me just keep myself quiet. We get into the train, she plugs in her earphones. We went a whole 6.5 hours train ride. No conversation at all.
She really didn't want to talk, did she?
Except for the moment that I was ordering food.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Throughout, there was no conversation. We get there, we get an Uber to a friend's house. We get to the friend's house, same thing, silence. It's only when we got to the friend's house that she pretended a little because she doesn't want the friend to notice what's going on. Then in the morning, there's again silence. That's when I grabbed her to the side and I said, look, fingers at you. I'm not trying to intimidate you in any way. I'm not trying to threaten you in any way, but look, just sit down, think. I didn't have WhatsApp for a number of days. Your friend is telling you B. And if you listen and check through, here's my phone. You're the one with the SIM card in your phone, not me. I don't have a SIM card. So at what point did I then talk to your friend?
Exactly. Yeah. It doesn't add up.
I'm sorry for not understanding. I'm sorry for being inconsiderate, etc. Then she kept quiet.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I then understood, okay, fine. So she's not a very good communicator. That's where we had a problem. From there, we then had issues when I went to now visit my immigration lawyer. We're now dealing with the situation, etc. So at first I'd been denied what they call legal aid, which is a government fund to get you a legal practitioner to handle immigration affairs.
Yeah.
So the first attempt, I got denied because they said apparently when I went to apply for my visa, I had money. So now that I'm claiming I don't have money, what happened to the money that I used when I applied for my visa?
It wasn't happening up.
So I explained the process to them. They didn't understand it. So now she had to step in, talk to her friends, try and get the friends to get me a different lawyer, which then happened. Then I got a different lawyer. And when that happened, again, she now became a bit more bossy. She now feels, okay, because I'm taking all these L's for you, you need to start treating me with a bit more respect.
Okay.
Pretty much she became the man in the relationship. So I let all of that slide because to me it wasn't really relevant until we then got a place of our own and we started living on our own. So we got a place, we started living in our own place. One of the friends who also then came from Zim to do the same process, started living with us.
Yeah.
The first week was okay. Second week was okay. We had no issues. Then in the third week, I then started working. I got a job. So I'm not working. I'm working for a landlord. He had a construction company.
Yeah.
So I'm working in construction with this guy. So this is how things used to happen. I used to leave work. I used to leave home for work around about, I think, 10, 11 in the morning. Then I get back around 4 p.m. She then got a job a few weeks after I had started working. And when she got a job, she was working 7 in the morning up to round about 7 p.m., 6, 7 p.m. So she worked longer hours than I did.
Yeah.
And now her little sister had also then come. Okay, so that little sister, she then texts and says, I'm pregnant. I'm really pregnant now. So my boyfriend proposed yesterday, etc. She sends pictures. So he wants to marry me and we're going back home to get married.
Yeah.
Zvemoyo then says, okay, fine, no problem. It's you guys chose that path, no problem. I'll support you either way. So she's the one that was handling the sister's, most of the sister's bills, school fees, etc. So pretty much she's one that holds fort in the whole family, but she has this certain hatred towards men. So she didn't get along with the father.
Okay.
Zvemoyo had this hatred towards men simply because of her issues with her dad. But now it had reversed onto me. I'm the one that has daddy issues because I don't quite get along with my dad.
Okay.
So we started having problems when the little sister then, in her pregnancy stage, Zvemoyo calls the sister and then she says, have you ever considered coming here? Would you want to come here? So sister's like, yeah, why not? But I'm here in Zim and this guy's supposed to come back from China to marry me, etc. So how's that going to work? Then she said, no, talk to the guy and tell him you're proceeding here to come live with me.
Yeah. So
I think she did. I don't know what happened on the sister's part, but when it then came to communication with me, I don't know, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, Tinto. You're living with me as a partner and we are trying to establish something serious. We are focusing on a future together. These decisions, I don't think are decisions that you make alone.
No, you don't.
I was not informed about this. I won't say I was consulted. I was informed. So she comes up, I come back from work. She says, so I'm thinking of bringing my sister here. So when you say that, keyword there is thinking.
Yeah.
Yes. So I waited for a response because you're thinking. So I said, okay, fine. Since you're thinking, let me know what the final decision is.
Yeah.
But again, you do realize if she comes, there's an effect on our financial situations, an effect on us also as well. Because now there's a third party involved. And again, she's going to need support from both of us. I also still have other expenses I need to cover back home. My little brother has also just gone to India for school. So these are also things I need to consider too.
Yeah.
Then she says, she's my mother's daughter. I wouldn't let her struggle. If whatever calamity hits her, it also hits me too.
Yeah.
So if there's anything that needs funding, I'm there for her. Then I thought, okay, fine. If that's your call, then no problem. I took a step back on that one because again, it's still a thought. So I'm waiting for the thought to get processed and then I hear the final decision. Until a week later, I get a message can I please have your bank card details? Then I sent my bank card details. So I thought maybe she's trying to buy something, food or something for the house.
Yeah.
I gave her the bank details. But no way. She's trying to give to her sister so the sister can have access to Uber and etc. when she gets to the US.
Wow.
Then I come back from work and then he says, oh yeah, little sister's visa is out. She's coming on this day.
Wow.
So flight has been done, visa has been done, etc. without me being consulted. To me, that was a bit forward. Again, I didn't call it out then. But I then called it out a few days later and I said, look, I don't see why you had to go and do this without my consent because, again, you said you were going to think about it. So when you said you're thinking about it, I was waiting for a final decision. She stood her ground, but anyway, it was already water under the bridge. Sister's already now in Ethiopia, halfway coming here. There was nothing I could do about it anymore. So sister arrives, and upon sister's arrival, she then sends me a message and she says, please let me know how much I owe you on your card so I can pay you back.
Okay.
That's when I responded and I said, look, it doesn't make sense. Your sister's my sister too.
Yeah.
I don't see why we should be going on trying to go back and forth, compensating finances that are there for the household.
Yeah.
It's not my money alone, it's for the household. That's how I put it. Then she says, okay, fair and fine. Quiet. She goes quiet. So again, she also hadn't consulted the landlord. So landlord was also freaking out. Why would you allow your sister to just come all the way from Zim only for you to tell me today that your sister's arriving?
Yeah. That's not right.
So the landlord also had issues with her. So she then complained and she says, no, you've jumped the gun because this is my place. I'm in control of how many people I want in my house. So I just don't think this is right. So I want you out.
Whoa.
So on our way to pick up little sister, she then says to me, so Carlos, I think I'll be moving to an Airbnb until we find a place of our own within the next 10 days.
Whoa.
That's when I said, hey, why would you move to Airbnb and leave me with your friend and your sister in the same house? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
If you're going to do an Airbnb, let it be for me.
Yeah.
Your sister came to you, she needs you more. I mean, why should you move out? Then he says, oh, okay, fine, no problem. So we had bought a whole lot of baby stuff for the little sister because we're all excited about this baby.
Yeah.
Fast forward, little sister arrives. That was the day that I became a total stranger in that household. Everything turned upside down. That whole paradise we had just died. From the sister's arrival, there was so much chaos that even I was non-existent in that picture. We started having problems. We started arguing. We would complain and fight about really unnecessary things. But when we then had our moments, just the two of us, we were good. So she got to a point where I now started coming back home from work. I'd get home. Little sister would be sleeping. I make dinner, wait for Zvemoyo to come back, and then she takes a shower. We take a shower, or rather, then we have dinner together. I do the dishes, and then we go back to sleep. Or I'd leave her at least within at least 15 to 20 minutes to show with her sister, just to have that bonding session. So when she did that, there was a bit of a fight that went on. She started becoming distant, very distant. So this is what I was doing. In me giving them space together was out of consideration of the fact that they haven't seen each other in 2 years. And these are siblings. They were very, very close. So they needed that alone time together. So she can bond with her sister. But instead, she saw that as me withdrawing from her. So we started having problems. Then again, when I tried to hold her or just to kiss her, she says, no, you shouldn't do this in front of my sister because you now make her feel lonely too because her boyfriend is not here.
Okay.
But how is that my problem? Because when you brought this into the household, you said it wasn't an issue.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So with the whole cooking situation, she would show off to her friends, take videos, take pictures, even video call some of her friends. Or okay, look, guys, type of situation. This guy's cooking for me and you guys are out there,
Yeah.
And yet later on, when she then turns sideways, she sees this as a problem. So she got to a day where she texted my mom and she says, Mama, I don't know how to address this situation, but we're having issues. There's trouble in paradise. That's when my mom said, why? What's going on? Then she says, I don't know, but me and Carlos seem to have distanced from each other. And my mom said, we tried talking about it.
Mm.
Then she says, no, we haven't. Okay, so what exactly is it? Then she says, all of a sudden I feel neglected. I feel like no, she didn't say neglected. She said, I feel like I'm less of a woman nowadays in this household because all of my duties as a woman are being done by him. He cooks, he does the dishes, and when my sister tries to do it, he says no. And this is me thinking, why would I allow a pregnant woman to go through the whole labor of cleaning a whole house when I'm able-bodied and she can just relax?
Yeah.
And for me, it wasn't because I was doing it out of I can't even find the right word for it. But I wasn't doing it because I wanted to do it myself. But I was doing it because it was out of consideration for the next person.
Yeah.
Because when I was growing up, my mother constantly was in hospital when she was pregnant. Her blood pressure would be high for anonymous reasons. So overworking was one of them. And I didn't want that to be happening with her.
And that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So it was out of consideration of the next person, but she didn't see it that way. She saw it as, okay, this guy is trying to be rebellious. He feels like he needs to do everything on his own.
Yeah.
So it got to a day, then my mom says, no, talk about it. So in that same moment, I'm also texting my mom and I said, oh, mom, I don't know what's going on between the two of us. We've just gone distant and I don't know how to fix it. So my mom actually jokingly texts and says, what's wrong with the two of you? You're both texting me about the same thing. Where aren't you guys close to each other? And I said, she's right next to me. Then my mom says, okay, yeah, she texted and she told me certain things that she needs to talk about. But I thought maybe we should talk about you now. We should talk about them with you now.
Yeah.
And I said, no, she hasn't. Then she says, okay, fine, probably she will. So I kept quiet. I gave it at least 2 days and nothing happened. So that's when I then texted her best friend. And I said to the friend, look, I don't understand what's going on with the friend, but this is what's going on. We've tried talking things through, but then I'm not getting any response from her. The friend looked funny and then she says, okay, fine, I'll talk to her. And then I explained the situation. I said, okay, I think it's more to do with the fact that I'm always doing all the household chores, etc.
Okay.
Then the friend, she says, oh, I don't get it, why she's now complaining. Because to us, she actually shows off in our friends group.
Yeah.
She sends pictures of the meals, etc. And she actually shows off. And for me, I actually feel like this is a blessing because even for me, my husband hardly comes home to do such.
Yeah.
So we actually envy you guys. Only to find out that she complains about it to your mother. And I'm like, yeah, and without even talking about it with me. So that's the part I don't get, because if she had at least hinted to me that she doesn't like it, then I'd allow her that space. So friend said she talked to her, but I don't know what the conversation between the two of them was. So fast forward, we went to church, came back from church, same thing. She was a pictures person. She normally used to say, babe, come, let's take pictures, etc. So we had a whole lot of selfies with each other.
Yeah.
But in that moment, we come back from church, she stands outside with her sister, they start taking pictures, and I stood there for at least 5 minutes. I didn't get that invite, so I went straight into the house. I started making coffee.
Yeah.
Then I came back. Then she says, and I came back, they were still doing the same thing. Then I went back into the house. That's when I started talking to a friend that we used to live with. And I was like, look, this is what's going on. I don't know how to fix this. Then he says, no, you guys need to talk. Then I hear conversation that's going on in the lounge. So they were talking about a friend of theirs who was going through a situation in their marriage, and their marriage seemed a bit rocky. And in that marriage being rocky, the friend's relatives are saying, no, stick around for the sake of your children. Then mine goes and says, I'll never stick around in a marriage for children. If it's not working, it's not working. Why should I force myself with somebody when things are like that? If things get intense to that extent, I'd rather be a small house to somebody than get married. This is my girlfriend saying that, and I'm in the next room and I can hear that.
Jeez.
So I walked into the room so she could hear, so she could see that I hear. And when I got in and sat, she says, Wajinzwere, babe. Like I said, I'd rather be a small house. So if you feel you want to marry somebody else, feel free to let me know. Go marry that person, and then I'll become a small house to you.
Wow.
So she walked towards the bedroom. So I had texted her a few seconds before that, and I said, I need to see you. So she walked to the bedroom. They says, come. Then I went there, and I'm like, what's that all about? So the sister actually then said, Zvemoyo, don't you think this is a bit too much?
Yeah, it's not right.
I get to the bedroom. She says such, dude, I don't get why you go and complain to my friend about the things that are going on to me and you, etc. You should have just spoken to me about it. And I said, no, look, I tried talking to you, but you are not responsive. So what do you want me to do? So I decided, let me seek advice from the best person that knows you well enough more than anybody else.
Yeah.
You said your mother doesn't know you enough. You said your sister doesn't know you enough, but instead that best friend knows everything about you.
Yeah.
So that's why I decided, let me talk to your friend so I can get to understand from your friend's point of view, since number one, she's married. Number two, she's your best friend. She knows you better than anybody. Because if I was to ask any of my friends, I don't have any married friends. And the ones that I do have that I consider friends that are married is more, which you know.
Yeah.
And getting Momo's advice, he'll probably tell me start cheating. And that's not what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
Then she says, okay, fine, you know what? But like I told you, my words are final. If you feel you want to marry someone else, go ahead and marry that person. Since I'm the cause to all our problems in this relationship. Every fight that we have, it seems I'm always the issue. Then I said, no, it's not like that. But you just need to communicate more. So in me saying so, she walked out. That was the last of that conversation. We come back from escorting the friend. Everything is cool. We're back to normal again. So I felt we had already ironed out that. But no way, it wasn't yet. We then moved houses. We started staying in a different place. Again, we're now living in a new house. We've just moved in. The second day in that house, I decided, let me buy drinks. Let's chill. Do a little housewarming of our own. In that moment, I buy drinks. We're chilling. We're having drinks. We're talking. And everybody else goes to sleep. So it's now me and you time. But she spent so much time on her phone that day that we hardly got a chance to actually chill and talk until I then pushed her off the phone.
So who was she on the phone to?
Apparently she was texting a friend who was also asking the process of how to come through.
Oh, okay.
So she was trying to come through as well.
There's obviously a lot happening here, and I can tell there's a hell of a lot to actually go through that. But just looking at where we are with the time with this, I sort of need to get to the cracks. So, you know,
to get to the cracks, I don't know what then happened in that moment, but we had that fight. We tried to resolve. Again, there was issues. She never really opened up to what the issue was. So fast forward, January, we also had problems again. February, we had issues again. So we're now living with another friend of hers who was now staying in the basement. This guy, this lady.
So many were you now in this house?
So this is me, her, and the sister in the top floor, and the baby. Sister now has a baby.
Yeah.
Then in the basement, there's two of her friends.
Yeah.
And one has her boyfriend living with her. So it was just then a series of fights that went on until round about March. That's when everything got really worse, to a point where she and the sister started giving me trouble. Like constantly we would fight. And I would talk to her mother, I would talk to her friends to try and fix the situation.
Yeah.
But it got so messy that nobody anymore wanted to get into whether
course,
they didn't want to get involved, I don't know. But I also kept trying because I had hope in what we were trying to build. But instead, Zvemoyo was done. And at that moment, I didn't pick it up.
Yeah.
For what reason she was done, I don't know. But it got to a point where we are in bed together one morning. And she says, oh, so-and-so says hi. And who is this so-and-so? That ex from Zim that she had to ask permission to date me.
Jeez.
And I'm thinking, to what extent did your conversation get that he would now want to greet me?
Yeah.
And he greets me on what grounds? He's not friends with me.
Exactly.
Who is he to me? Who is he greeting me as? She kept quiet about it.
Wow.
That slid. So now then she had that with my uncle. My uncle then said, no, I think you need to put a stop to this. Move out of that house, get your own space, and start visiting each other constantly until you guys are stable enough in your relationship.
Yeah.
Otherwise, for as long as you're living under that roof with her sister, etc.,
you're in trouble, brother.
We then had a fight to a point where her and the sister kicked my stuff out of the house. Like literally, she beat me up.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
We are trying to talk about, so I had talked to the sister's boyfriend. Now we are now at a point where we're trying to get this guy to come through also.
Yeah.
So I was giving him tips on how he could come through. So he got denied a visa twice. So in the third attempt, I then suggested, why don't you come through with artists? So what I was now trying to do was organize with guys that come through here for festivals, etc. So when they're coming through, they let us know, and then he comes in as a band member.
Yeah.
So that's now the process I was now trying to go through. So as I was talking to him, we got comfortable in talking to each other that the Bamnini decided, no, he shared his relationship problems with me. I started sharing mine too. And I think my problem, my biggest weakness was also I then overshared with him. So every time I shared something with him, he would then go and tell my Nini as well.
Okay.
So when it then goes back from my Nini, it goes back to Zvemoyo. It's now a cycle. And obviously spiced up too.
No, that makes sense. So
there was no longer that communication between me and her. We got to a point where we're now sleeping in separate bedrooms.
Okay.
I got a text from her at 11 p.m. after a whole fight, after being told I am the most pathetic excuse of a human being. She can't believe she was about to get married to me. And then 30 minutes later, she's sending me a text message. Please come to my room. I want to have sex with you.
It was a bit strange, wasn't she?
So it just became toxic.
Yeah.
To such an extent that I walked out.
Yeah.
And when she then beat me up that day with the whole situation with Bamini, that's when she kicked my stuff out the house. And in an attempt to throw my laptop onto the wall and to tear immigration documents of my acceptance as a conventional refugee. That's when I then held on to her and I said, no, look, this is it. And then she locked the door in the bedroom in an attempt to try and fight with me again. So because we're now fighting in the bedroom, no one really knows what's going on in the room. So I was trying to resist. She's unlocking and blocking the door so I can't get out. Little sister now then yells out, I'm calling the cops if you beat her up.
Yeah.
So at that moment I freaked out and I dialed 911 and I put the phone down. So the police can hear the squabble.
Yeah.
But in them hearing the squabble, they don't really know who's fighting who. So they deployed police over to the house and I explained what was going on. Then they took her in.
Whoa.
In them taking her in, I don't know how long it took for them to really assess the situation, but they took her in for a couple of hours. They came back at 4 a.m. They tried to get her, they told her to get her stuff and she needed to move out until the issues resolved. So in me calling the police, I didn't call the police so she could get arrested. I called the police so they could try and reason with her. And sit down and just diffuse the situation. But instead, the law here states whenever one has been attacked already, it's a criminal offense and she's liable to get arrested. So I did plead to the police at least more than 7 times before they came and after they came. Not to arrest her. But they insisted and arrested. So they took her in, she was arrested. 3 weeks later, so in me talking, after I got the morning after that, I spoke to a friend of mine and I told my friend that what's going on, what had happened. He got me to move to a different city to his sister's place. So I texted one of her friends and I said, okay, fine, I'm leaving the house. I've left ETC, I've left ABCD. I've taken all my stuff. If there is anything of mine left, please call me and let me know and I'll come and pick it up.
Yeah.
Because now she has a whole family there in that household. I didn't feel it was safe for me to remain there. And again, little sister has a baby that still needs her attention. She also needs her attention too. So it was only safer for me to leave that space so she could come back home. So I went to my friend's sister's place. I stayed in a different city for a week and a half until that friend's boyfriend then called me back and they said they got me a job. So I came back and I'm living with that guy. In the first weekend that I got back, I get a phone call from that Nigerian artist, Runtown. And Runtown says, yo, man, I'm around. I didn't know you guys are here. I only heard from so-and-so, a friend of ours. So I'm performing at this club. Come through to the club. Let's have a good time. And I said, cool. So this is the Friday that I've just arrived. The Thursday was Zvemoyo's birthday. So Zvemoyo is probably wilding out because she now knows I'm no longer in the city. So here I am. I go to the club. I'm waiting by the bar. I'm waiting for Runtown to arrive. Zvemoyo, the whole situation is still not dealt with. We still haven't fully broken up because we've only been parted ways by a restraining order. So we still haven't broken up. We're still together. But in that moment, Zvemoyo walks into the door holding hands with a 50-year-old looking guy.
What?
The reaction she struck when she saw me was just, and that's it.
Whoa.
I was gutted, Tinto. I was gutted. I didn't know what to do. I think it's very important in relationships that we pay attention to the people we're with. Pay attention to the energies of the people that we're with. And as much as I love this woman, probably still do, but in a different way now. It just got so chaotic. Tinto, for the sake of time, I'll end it here. If there's still need for this talk, I think I'll have this talk with you later on, and then you can see how you can incorporate it somewhere else. But yeah, it was a crazy experience.
I mean, this has been an incredible journey. I mean, but what really strikes me the most is how you had to leave everything you had, and you're doing very well in Zimbabwe to end up in a situation like this where you don't have closure.
Yeah.
Well, I guess now it all makes sense. The 4 lessons that came out originally, when we started this particular section of Zvemoyo, was that don't procrastinate. Never ignore the red flags, always be on the lookout, and the grass is not always greener. And they all really make sense. If you hadn't procrastinated, you'd have said certain things way ahead of time, and perhaps you wouldn't have ended up in the situation that you ended up being in at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for those who've stuck onto this and rode the ride up to part 3, I want to say thank you. And thank you, Carlos, for sharing such an interesting story. And
thank you. It's just a pity we couldn't get to a part 4.
Well, you've been listening to another episode of The Feeling Station. I'm your host, Tinto, and I look forward to catching you next week. Peace.
Ow. Tell me what you're feeling.
Satis on Daru Raini and Chagezai.
Tell me what you're feeling. Now that it's over.
Satis on Daru Raini and Chagezai.
Let me talk about my feelings. Let me talk about my feelings, yeah.
Urudoi motoru noto kujidziro amai.
Kujidziro amai. Love is a fire.
Urudoi motoru noto kujidziro amai.